Good.
Yeah, yeah, it's going. There we go.
I kind of want to be specific today.
Okay, yeah. So what you got?
Let's see. Um, let's see. I feel like I know what I saw the first sentence, but it didn't start. Um, it's like how I got on this medicine. It was like people roles was compartmentalized, and they was all telling people different things, but the end goal was to get me on this medicine. So it's like, how is it my fault that they chose to withhold information from me?
I don't think there's anything that's your fault.
How is it my family fault when government went to them and threatened them, and not just threatened them, told them not to tell me what they was doing. Actually, my family didn't know what they was doing. And my mother even said to me, she was like, they didn't say everything they was gonna do. They didn't tell her the truth. And she was like, and later on, about a year ago, she said that it's a cover up. They trying to cover up the truth surrounding your situation. And it's obvious, and you know, like everybody's like, Terrell, you need to mind your business. Well, if people want me to mind my business, take me off the medicine. I'm not gonna sit there and let my health deteriorate, to the point where it could be fatal, or a lifelong illness. Even after I get off the medicine, that can result into me, in an early grave. I've been on this medicine since I was practically a kid. And yeah, so it's a proximity thing. It's a parent trap. When they can't blame me for something, they blame my parents. When they can't blame my parents for something, they blame me. But where do they take accountability for what they done? My parents don't need this. I don't need this. They did this based off their relationship with my real father, not people that raised me. I don't even know my real father, you know. But he did tell me that one of the last times I saw him, I only seen him like 4 or 5 times in my life, and he said he knew a Maryland politician because the politician was actually on TV. And my father was like, yeah, I know him. He's a friend of mine, so. And where has my father been since I've been on this medicine? I've been on this medicine 16 years. You know how many times I've seen my father since I've been on this medicine? Take a guess.
Well, at least once, because you saw him a year ago.
Yeah, once. And how that happened, I don't know. He came when I took the vehicle and went to Maryland. He came there with the police. And this remind you, my mind was confused when I took the car and did the things I did. But the reality is, I took the car, and instead of the police arresting me and transporting me back across state lines and meeting up with state police and transfer me back to Virginia, the police left the hotel and let me go home with my father. And then people from the group home in the CSB, because that the CSB owned the group home, people from the CSB came and picked the car up. I went back to the group home. So the reality is, a lot of stuff could have been avoided. And the reality is the government is just making traps to try to keep me in this situation. I ain't done nothing. Had no reason to be put on this medicine in the first place. But they try to create little traps so they could justify the illegal things that they done to me. And then, any accusation they make against me ain't gonna hold up in court, because where's the evidence? Why do you think they gave me this medicine? You know, and that's a question. I'm asking a question like, why do you think I was given this medicine in 2006?
I can't
On what
begin.
grounds?
Well, there isn't any grounds.
Okay, so And see, that's the problem with the situation. And I'll get back to that in a minute. You know, like, for example, like, where it seemed like, and this is something I heard, people are saying that the terrorists that are holding me on this medicine and the government are working together, in a sense of not working together, voluntarily, but to keep me alive, they working together. So, just imagine and think about all the things you know about me personally that's private and embarrassing. Where's the line being drawn at? Because do they have my bank information, my PIN number? Do they have my phone number? So I'm like, how is it that the most private and embarrassing stuff is circulating around, but then banks accounts and bank pins and things like that are not circulating? So what do they choose? Basically, what I'm getting at, the people that gave everybody's earpieces and are relaying my thoughts into people earpieces, where do they draw the line? What are they choosing to let people hear, and what they're choosing to not let people hear? You know, because I'm like, for one, if they wanted a functioning and healthy relationship, even though they roofed me, but if they wanted a functioning relationship to where, you know, I didn't fight them and things like that the way I do, then they would, don't you think they would have kept some things private that was embarrassing and humiliating?
Terrell, like none of this makes any sense. I mean, like none of this makes any sense to me. So,
Okay,
I can't come up with a
how about
like, oh, this is why I think they're doing this or that. Like,
how about
it's not.
this?
It's not a sensible.
Like, okay, like the incident when I took the vehicle, one of the guys I went to school with that followed me all the way from Lancaster County to Norfolk, which is a 2-hour drive. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was supposed to go to Norfolk Navy Base because I really didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I went to the gate and I was like, I lied to the guy at the gate. I was like,
So, like, what made you think to go there? Like, I'm just how did that
confusion,
all
confusion.
begin?
Because when they told me to be at such and such place at such and such time, I didn't know where the place was. And my mind just ran wild. And I was just doing anything. Like, one minute I was headed to Richmond. I turned around on the interstate, went back, went to Newport News. Then I went to Hampton. Then I went to Norfolk.
So your mind was just in
I was
a total state of confusion.
Confusion. And when I was in Norfolk, I was like, Navy base, maybe, that got some military, I don't know what I was thinking. But when I went to the Navy base, I got to the gate and I was like, I didn't mean to come. I lied to the guy at the gate. I was like, I didn't mean to come here. Can I turn around? And he was like, yeah, drive down and just turn around and come back. Well, I drove on the Navy base and didn't turn around. I stayed on the Navy base for probably about 10 to 15 minutes. And that's heavily secured. Nobody showed up, nothing. But the reality is, the guy from my town that followed me all the way up there, he actually got on the Navy base too. He's not in the military. So you would have thought the gatekeeper would have been like two suspicious people asking to turn around. Well, at least that's what I said to why I wanted to get on the base. But what did Chris Sampson tell them to where they allowed him to get on the base for me to sit there in a park car on the base and he pull up maybe like 20 parking spots over and sit there and just wait till I left. That happened, so it's a lot of crazy weird things going on. Like, you know, um, you see things like, for example, Bush had a social media. He got a couple social media accounts. Well, I went on his social media account, which was a verified account, and accused him of doing me wrong. And I saw the check. It was guaranteed that I was on the right account. And I accused him of doing me wrong. Next thing I know, his account was no longer verified. And who does that? How are we gonna ban Donald Trump from Twitter for just being opinionated for Bush out here committing war crimes and you partnering with him and deleting his verified presence on your social media platform. How does things like that happen?
I,
But that happened. And then um the game, like the game said, like how I was talking about last week, about the basics when they say you know um where Jeezy said to caught in the matrix to fail is a seed. I don't know what words, one slipping them back to the basics. Well, the game, which is a rapper, he play off of that too, and he said something around the realm of I'm the doctor's advocate. N-word, Dre shot you, brought you back from the dead. That's why they call him the doctor, referring to the people that put me on the medicine. Because before the medicine, allegedly, people wanted to kill me because they thought I knew something that was that jeopardized some organization's freedom. And that's why my mother come hug me crying. That's why my mother was scared. That's why I ended up on this medicine because my mother was afraid, and this is me speculating.
I was going to say, how did you like learn this?
My mother said things to me like, how would you have felt if I wasn't here anymore? And she said things to make me suspicious that people are threatening and extorting her. And she come hug me and started crying maybe a couple weeks before medicine. And you know, so and then one of my friends said something about, indirectly said something about another person in my community got caught up in some stuff and his father had to come in and help him. And see that's the thing about this situation. All this indirect talk, like y'all do now, y'all was doing it before medicine. So how did this look? If they're telling people terrorists got me on this medicine, which is a lie, but if they're telling people that, what is keeping me alive? You know, and the terrorists must have some conditions, and the U.S. government must have some conditions. So the U.S. government, so terrorists are using protocols. So let's run this scenario. So the government give me my doctor give me this medicine. Okay, I realize I'm getting my mind read. A terrorist said, okay, we holding him hostage. We want some demands if you want to keep him alive. And then they like, and everybody got earpiece, and they like, well, how do we conduct it while we figure out the solution? Well, then the U.S. government say, well, we was indirectly communicating with him before the medicine. Why don't we continue to do that? Is y'all happy with that? Al Qaeda? Does that make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm still confused about the whole terrorist thing because if I'm remembering correctly, the whole it was somebody, a patient at Eastern State, who said they thought that. But I'm curious as just to why you take that so seriously.
Because what explains holding someone hostage for 16 years?
Well,
to the point where their health is deteriorating, and you making commercials like Rogaine commercials talking about use it or lose it. Mary J. Blige making songs talking about take me as I am, I had nothing at all. Is that the U.S. government telling people? Is the U.S. government telling the community and telling my family, oh, we're going to keep Terrell on this medicine for the rest of his life? So it's common sense that the U.S. government is not taking responsibility for this medicine. It's kind of common sense, because it would be too much backlash to acknowledge that this is their medicine and that they're choosing to do this to me, and to the point where my health is deteriorating. I'm putting married people business out in the street. I'm putting my business out in the street. I'm putting everybody in my community business out in the street that's private, could ruin their marriage, ruin their relationship, expose their, personal and private things, whether it's in the bedroom or the affairs people having. all this stuff is being exposed. So it got to be a good reason why this is happening. And when I say happening, I don't mean why this is happening in the sense of why they're doing this. I mean a good reason why people are accepting this situation, knowing that all these things are occurring, because it's either accepted and ignore it to try to preserve Terrell life and keep him alive, or what? Because that's why I say, they're blaming it on terrorists, because that's the only conclusion I can come up with to why people would accept this situation. I don't think the general public would accept that the U.S. government is choosing to do this, because at the end of the day, they are choosing to do this, but they're lying about it. But I don't think, and everybody know they're lying about it. Just like, when I was at Central State in 2014, and this is not people that was living there. These were people that worked there talking about, Bush and Bin Laden being partners, and then I even had some people that was residents at the mental hospital look at me when they would start talking about the Bush, like give me a side eye, like, yeah, be careful, what, blah blah blah, and then the media, they are aware of these things, and that's why I saw a commercial last week with Blair, what's his name, Blair Underwood, the black actor. You know who that is, Blair Underwood, black actor, which is from Petersburg, which is the same, which is the same place where Central State is at. And reason why they use him as a form of communication, because the guy that gave me the side eye and looked at me said that Blair Underwood used to date his cousin or family member or something like that, and he used to beat her and all kinds of stuff, and that's how he got that scar on his forehead, because he used to beat women, and she hit him with something, so they are aware of the communication that people are passing along to me, and they act on it and make commercials, make movies displaying that they are well aware of what people are saying, and they are basically like Jennifer Garner, her show Alias that came out in 2004, 2005 or earlier. Well, I looked at that when I was living in Gloucester from 2011 ish going into 12 up until 2014. And I didn't know that, because I don't know how the technology works as far as not just the medicine, but how they are able to be in my head when they in another state, and like she was acting, and I'm like, is this stuff live? Is she in my head? Is it being relayed live? And she acting? And I'm seeing stuff like that. Next thing I know, when I look at the news, they got her on White House grounds talking, you know, about political things. And not just that, Taraji P. Henson, she came out with a movie called What Men Want. Next thing I know, she's testifying in Congress about something. Why is Taraji P. Henson, an actress, black actress, testifying in front of Congress? What political connections or ties or involvement does she have into anything?
Do you know what she was testifying about?
No, but she was testifying in front of Congress. And see, the thing with this situation, these people that got me on this medicine, they try to be slick and sneaky. They do all these things to say, oh, Terrell is guilty by association. And then to cover their own tail, they use people like Jennifer Gardner, like Taraji P. Henson, to keep their side looking legit, to say, we are doing this by the book. But in reality, they're not doing things by the book, because I'm caught off guard because I don't know what's going on. And if people would sit down and tell me what's really going on, am I a hostage by terrorists? Am I here because the incident where I took the vehicle and all the stuff I told you last week? Or, why? Or was it was a week before?
Oh, yeah.
Is that why I'm on this medicine? 1 minute I'm a military soldier, next minute I'm a criminal, next minute I committed treason, so, and none of these things are true. I'm like, when I was at Riverside, and the doctor there mumbled under his breath that I was guilty of treason. with two people in it that was clearly government agents, because I looked up to Robert Sanders like like a year ago in Williamsburg, and he's a short, kind of stocky dude, and his career doesn't advance right now. Like he's climbing up the ladder, I guess, from doing the dirty deeds. He's getting promotions, but the guy I met that was representing me called himself a lawyer. He was a tall, slender guy named Robert Sanders, and he had an assistant with him. And then there was a guy that said he was from Williamsburg, CSB, and because it was their catchment area, he was there working on my behalf. And then when they told me I was guilty of treason, I'm sitting there like, what's going on? Because when nobody speak, the only person that spoke was the judge, and the judge went around the room and asked everybody a question, and they pretty much said no comment. And then next thing I know, the judge said you get mumbling on his breath, you guilty of treason. And I'm sitting there like, what are you talking about? I'm not knowing what's going on, you know. And then the guy from Winsburg CBH, you know, I got his name written down at home. You know, he when we got out the room, he walked up to me and said, "Why didn't you say something?" And he was tricking me too, because I think he was a government agent too. I think it was 3 government agents and a judge in the room, and they was all lying about who they said they were. And the dude that was supposed to have been there on my behalf to speak up for me, who said he was from CBH in Williamsburg, he lied to me about that, because when I got my files from Williamsburg, and I got my files from Newport News, Hampton CSB, comes to find out he was from that CSB, and um, I was supposed to be in that catchment area. So I don't know why he lied to me about being from Williamsburg. You know, because of the catchment area, I was in Newport News, Hampton, CSP catchment area. So somebody from there should have came to um, to represent the mental health aspect of the CSP. But he said he was from Williamsburg. And see, the problem I have with that, if people like they say they do in this community was really fighting for me, well, I done been to every mental hospital up here for pretty much no reason. You know, Riverside twice, Portsmouth like twice, Eastern State 3 times, Pavilion once, and pretty much every time, even though I was in a different catchment area, Gloucester CSB came there and represented the CSB. You know, and I know everybody at Gloucester CSB because I not only was a client of theirs at that time, you know, when in 2014, I worked there and was familiar with everybody that worked there. So if these people, like they said, they got inside information on what's going, people that are claiming to be fighting for me in this community claim they got inside information. And if that's the case, you should have had inside information when you knew that they was going to accuse me of treason. And you should have sent a familiar face from Gloucester CSB like you usually do. And it just so happened when I don't see a familiar face, I'm getting accused of treason. And then the guy who's representing me lie about where he's from. And then Robert Sanders look and his assistant look like 2 government agents. And, you know, they lie about who they are. You know, and that sparked the movie that Will Smith was in called Spies in Disguise. You know, so like I said, you know, it's a lot of sneaky stuff going on, and basically I'm getting taken advantage of. I got taken advantage when I was accused of treason. I got taken advantage with Taraji P testified in front of Congress. If that happened, that had anything to do with my situation. I got taken advantage of with Jennifer Garner being a correspondent on the White House lawn after I'm watching her shows, uh, Alias, where she, and when I'm like, it's funny because when I lived back in Kilmarnock, I used to say, you know, I think Bush and Bin Laden are partners. And they used to do commercials talking about, are you willing to die for what you believe? You know, and I thought that up until 2014. I even told the FBI that, you know, and they probably got it recorded. Their number is 757-455-0100. They was in Norfolk. I think they moved to Chesapeake or somewhere. They moved their offices. But anyway, you know, so a lot of stuff I say can be backed and probably is documented somewhere. But you seem like the FBI is withholding the truth and engaging in the cover up, and like I was saying with Jennifer Garner, um, I'm not knowing they're doing a second act like the movie Jennifer Lopez came out with a few years back. Like if something came out and it was canceled, like a series, and the series was canceled, well, they show the reruns. Well, when I look at TV, they are reenacting it, and it's times where I just seen it clearly that things was being reenacted because they reenacted so they can be in my head and keep control over me. But at the same time, like up until now, I wasn't clear how that worked, so I didn't know. I was in denial about the reenacting, and I'm looking at
so reenact. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. Reenacting what?
The shows on TV and being in my head in the process and making it relevant to the current situation to me.
Gotcha.
And I'm looking at Jennifer Garner Alias, which is a spy show, and I'm thinking, and I remember thinking, I think, and her boss was like a terrorist organization that was doing unsanctioned things, and that made me think of George Bush, and he ended up getting caught for doing that. Her boss on the show ended up getting caught for unsanctioned hits, which made him a terrorist, and to the point where he committed treason. And I'm thinking of George Bush, because that's what's relevant with me right now. Next thing I know, um, they his superiors, instead of charging him and putting him in jail for treason, they gave him a pass and actually continued to let him work for the company, you know, that was doing the unsanctioned government operations. And that made me think of George Bush. And they played off of that and like pretty much said that George Bush was forgiven. And then she come out with on a new organization or something like that. And the name was ran by her boss that was committing the crimes against that committed treason. And the name of the organization was APO, Authorized Personnel Only, as if that's what they was telling me, like I was authorized personnel only. And I'm in denial about this stuff. I'm not knowing that it's a second act and that these things are being reenacted. I'm sitting there like, is my mind playing tricks on me? Is this real? I'm in denial, and then, that's why I think she was speaking on the White House lawn. Like people are doing all these things and I don't know how they're being done. And just because I'm in the vicinity, it's like, or it's like I'm guilty by association when I'm not playing a role into any of this stuff. I don't know what's going on. And I think, these folks like it, my ignorance, because that gives them an easier way to take advantage of me, and that's what they do, you know. And not just that, like last week I was looking at Holder and Jenna, and Cameron came out with a song called Wet Wipes, playing off of what T.I. said, that, he was going to sign me to a record deal. I was someone who had AIDS and a baby by a girl overseas. And I'm like, well, obviously that's a lie. And Cameron played off of that, talking about get your wet wipes, get your wet wipes. But in that song, Cameron said, you should be cautious, kid, for the boss of this off your head. Basically, say kill you, And I looked at the Today Show last week, and they talking about now they calling George Bush Hefe. I never knew that was his nickname. I don't think it's his nickname.
Who's calling him that?
Jenna said that's what Barbara Bush, he told Barbara Bush, youngest baby, that's what they're gonna be calling him, Jefe, which is Spanish for boss.
Okay.
So like I said, it's obvious that me and my family is being extorted and threatened and innocent of all this stuff, and everybody knows that. And people are more concerned with us minding our business because of the type of people they are, Bush them in the government, versus trying to get me out of this situation and save my life. And it's not right. And and another thing with George Bush, like Fab, a rapper called Fabulous, he rapped on a song from Nothing to Something. That's the name of the album. I'm talking fast food China.
Yeah. You're watching. We got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, he rapped on a song From Nothing to Something, and he says um something about the George Bush drug watch. Like there was a George Bush drug watch, and I didn't know what that meant. I thought he meant that George Bush was being investigated for drugs because I always associated with the mobsters, the rappers, and George Bush as one. So okay. I don't know nothing about a George Bush drug watch. And he said, happy to be here. So I smiled in my mugshots. Like, and I don't know if George Bush is supposed to be investigating them. Like, he's the one running the op on the drug watch, or he's being investigated for the drug watch. I don't know these things because, like, I don't know George Bush. I don't know these rappers. I'm not involved in this any way, shape, or form. But when I was living back in my hometown, they was, which is the pillars of the community. The newspaper, is all on. They all work in cahoots with each other because they pretty much on the same street and they all friends. What they put in the newspaper, they kept showing it was an overwhelming amount of articles or job descriptions or looking for job worker. I don't know, but anyway,
it was help wanted ads.
Yeah, it was like Bush hogging, and I think that they was trying to communicate that Bush is hogging the drug trade. I don't
okay,
know.
do you know what a bush hogger is?
I know that that's
it's a piece of farm equipment. I think. Like I'm not an agriculture person, so but I know it's like a.
Yeah, it is. But when you communicate indirectly, you use props as a form of communication. I know what a license plates are normally used for to identify your vehicle. But look at these license plates in Williamsburg. They're custom to be props for my situation. So.
Oh, are you seeing messages on license plates?
No. Like I seen license plates that said T-Shot, T space SHOT. I've seen license plates that say all kinds of stuff. So I'm not seeing it. I'm not delusional. I'm seeing what is actually there. And I'm speaking what is actually going on, and that's kind of the reality, and the reality is, people want me to, they got a predetermined outcome, and they want me to be the bad guy. That's I guess why Billie Eilish came up with the song "Bad Guy." The industry, music industry, actors want me to be the bad guy. The government want me to be the bad guy. Like Lil Baby come out with a song talking about, hey TT, Terrell Taylor, that's my name, and he said a song, kept it real with such and such, and he still wouldn't take the charge. I'm in your office today and been in it for the last 9 months since September because I'm not taking the charge. This is my fight, my stand to say, I'm not going down for this. That's why I'm here seeing you. And like, what's your name? Your last name is, I'm not gonna say your first, but your last name got pretty much the first 3 letters of government in it, and so.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It does have a GOV in it.
Yeah. So that made me think, oh, well, maybe she's government. Maybe you're one of these spies in disguise, and if you are, I know you're not going to tell me, just like my caseworker, I felt he was a spy in this guy. And he said to me in the car, when I was fighting, well, not really physically fighting, but advocating for myself, he said something about basically me paraphrasing what he said, that we will kill you and won't nobody even know we did it. And that's why he stopped being my caseworker, because I told on him. I told that that's what I felt he was indirectly saying to me.
That's what you thought he was, yeah.
And he was, just like he said verbally, directly to me, that when I was going to complain about my situation to my psychiatric doctor, when I got outside, he told me he would smack my hat off my head, which was a Marvel hat, because we used to talk about Marvel movies, and he was like, don't you do it, don't you do it. I smacked the hat right off your head. And there's no confusion about that. He was telling me, don't go in there and complain about your situation to your doctor. And every time I wear the hat, out in the community, I got people walking up to me saying, "Oh, I like your hat. I like your hat," because people know they're trying to tell me something when they say that. That's like a threat. Not that they're threatening me. They're telling me that if I keep doing what I'm doing, then it's threatening my well-being. But yeah, and then Busta Rhymes got a song called "Arab Money." You know, they coming out with shows on TV talking about triple cross, Bin Laden spy. So and I used to say Middle East people was cold. I don't know them, but I felt like they was cold and just not good people. Next thing I know, they airing something on American TV talking about you don't know Dubai, because I was referring to people out there because they was building those man-made islands, and that's what kind of made me think about them and people in the Middle East over in Dubai and places like that, Arabs, and and they coming out on TV talking about you don't know Dubai. Like, why is America defending these people? It seems like, and everybody feel this way. Bush cared more about his Saudi friends than he cared about his own people. You know, and they try to say he's a globalist, where he's really not for the American people. He's for global power and domination and things of that nature. And you look at Fahrenheit 9/11, they talk about that too, going back not just Bush Jr. but Bush Sr. being the exact same way. You know, doing a lot of things, fighting a lot of wars to keep protect the Saudi interests because all the money they loaned him and his family. And so yeah, you know, and we can stop because I want to.
I was going to say, yeah. Do you want to stop recording now?
Yeah, we'll spend the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
Talking about something else.
Okie dokie.